Hi everyone, I'm Klaus, the Dungeon Noob's guide. I am the guide. Don't know why everyone calls me the noob, but there it is. And I'm here, once again, trying a new format for stuff, just to talk about things, because I know I make videos about how to play games that go on for 45 minutes and go in depth on all the mechanics and stuff, but sometimes people just want to know if a game might be something they're interested in. And so today I would like to talk about reasons why you should try Sentinel Comics, the role-playing game. Full disclosure, all of this was sent to me for free by the creators of the game. I don't do reviews, but you know, if I liked it, I was encouraged to do so, and I do. They sent me first the full hardcover rule book. It feels good. It feels like a book. They sent me the game moderator kit. You know, I didn't like the first time I heard game moderator in Cortex Prime. I've really learned to appreciate the term. I don't know. And they sent me a pack of custom dice. If you get the physical book, very nicely put together, very clear color coding for a lot of stuff, some lovely art. Look at all this. Look, this is helpful. That'll be helpful. I need to hang on to this. I didn't mean to flip to this page, but I am going to need it. There are a lot of superhero TTRPGs out there, and I feel like they cover a pretty broad spectrum of like crunchiness and stuff like that. On one end, you've got something like Mutants and Masterminds that's kind of originally based off of the D&D system. I remember the first edition, the D20 system. History lesson for you kids. Mutants and Masterminds was a D20 system that had some big changes, but it was crunchy. There was math for movements and 20 levels and levels of powers, and each level had incremental On the other end of the spectrum, you have games like Masks, a new generation. It's simple. The superhero system in the Cypher system, I think it's okay. Plenty more other little systems out there. Villains and Vigilantes was the first one I ever played. It's fine. One of the problems I've had with a lot of these is none of the systems necessarily feel of comic books. I'd say Masks, a new generation, comes closest. So many of these other games that can go quicker, such as Fate or Cypher, they don't feel that much like they were made for comic books. And I mean, some of that comes down to GMing and stuff, but the mechanics don't necessarily feel like they were made with that stuff in mind, which isn't a problem for all people, and you can still have amazing games without the mechanics backing it up. But there is something cool to be said for when they do. Sentinel Comics. First off, Sentinel Comics it's fairly rules light. It goes pretty quick. All of your dice rolls kind of focus on taking from, all right, I don't want to lose this one page, it's important. I can just put this up on the screen. In Sentinel Comics, you're always basically just rolling 3 dice. First die comes from one of your powers. The second die comes from one of your qualities that kind of represent your character. And the third die comes from your status. Your powers are self-explanatory. You're a superhero, you have a certain set of powers, and each of those powers is rated with a die. So each of these powers, each of your stats, all of these things are all rated with a size of die, typically rating from a D6 all the way up to a D12. Ooh, and these are all nicely color-coded, just like they're in the book. God dang it. If in any of these categories you don't have something that applies, then it will default to just a little D4. So if you're in a situation and you don't have a power that could apply to this roll, then you're just going to roll a very human D4 in that situation. When you roll these 3 die, whatever 3 they might be, you will by default be taking the medium option, the middle option. There's always a max die, a min die, and the medium die. By default, all of your actions take the roll of the medium die and ignore the other 2. Your special abilities, which derive from your powers, they are the kind of things that can change up what is getting used. So a certain power might let you use your maximum die, or it might let you use your maximum and your medium die, or medium and minimum die, and affect multiple enemies, one for each. I'm not going to go super deep into the mechanics of this. I'm going to do a how to play video on this where I'll go through all this. But if you roll 3 die, a 5, a 9, and a 12, the 9 is your result. It's the middle die. And so obviously having more bigger die in a roll is more helpful. And you're not rolling to hit necessarily. You just hit, and you just get hit most of the time. There are ways to negate damage once per round, but it's kind of simplified because you're in a superhero fight and you're going to be taking hits and you're going to be given hits all the time. And your powers might be rated in certain ways. With your power ratings also comes descriptions of just how much that power can do at that rating, but it's left a little bit fluid and up to player and GM discretion. But, super speed might say, hey, if your super speed is rated at a D6, you can move roughly this fast. If your speed is at a D12, you can move roughly this fast. But it's not really strictly saying, like, if you have a super speed of this, you can move exactly this many feet per turn, blah, 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 blah. No. And that's one of my problems with Mutants and Masterminds. I find when you just put too many numbers and like specific things into something with comics and superheroes, it doesn't really feel like a comic where you just overcome by trying a little harder or something. I don't know. Or things getting ramped up as the situation gets more dire. That's where this thing comes in. One of the 3 things where your dice come from is your status. Status is your 3 health statuses. From full health down to like a certain level, you're at green status. And then in your kind of middle health range, you're in yellow status. And in your lower 3rd health range, you're at a red status. And below that, at 0, you're out. Not dead necessarily. Maybe you had to run away, or maybe you're just unconscious under some rubble. It's a superhero game. I don't know. So like if you're in a dangerous situation, most often just straight up combat, but you might be trying to shut down a doomsday machine or something like that. And so it's broken down into rounds. The scene tracker gives you statuses green, yellow, and red. Your character status is whichever is the lower between these 2. So if you're at the very beginning of a dangerous scene and the scene tracker status is green, but you have not recovered from the previous fight, so you're at half health and you're in yellow status, your status is yellow. But everyone else, if they're all up at green health and they're in a green scene tracker status, they're in green status. You're the only one in yellow because for you, it is a moderately bad situation. Why does status matter? First off, your status is one of your dice. And depending on your superhero, you might be someone that is best when things are calm, and so you've got the highest for that, and your dice maybe get lower as the status gets more dire. Or maybe you're a character that thrives on danger and extreme situations, and so getting down into a red status might mean that die gets bigger because you're better at rising to the challenge. Even more so, your status determines what abilities you can use. And typically your better abilities are in a red status because superheroes don't bust out the big guns until the situation's really dire. If you're at full health coming into a fight, and at the very beginning of a fight, you're Superman, you can't just throw a mountain at somebody. You gotta wait. You gotta have justification and reason for doing so. I've seen some people talking online about how this feels a little bit forced. It feels like it's kind of, forcing a certain dramatic tension. I'm okay with that. This is very much designed to kind of emulate Silver Age comics, which are not particularly dark and gritty. This is not a one-size-fits-all superhero game, and I don't think that's a bad thing. This serves slightly more lighthearted, classic superhero stuff, not necessarily meanwhile in the Hall of Justice, but it's also not dark and gritty. It's not 90s and punk and I think the rules are broad enough to allow you to kind of experiment with what kind of comic style you want to a degree. Could you do some like late 90s Batman the Animated Series stuff with Sentinel Comics? I think so. Could you do gritty The Boys? Probably not. Doing a terrible job at this. There's a reason I script everything. We'll see what this gets cut into. And enemy types. You've got like the main big super bad guys have the same kind of character sheet layout as your characters do, so they get powers and growing abilities and stuff. Whereas you've got like minions that are basically like one-hit kills where they just have basically a die type associated with them. And when they attack or do anything, that's what they roll. Hey, the bigger henchmen, they might get die that they get to roll. And when they take damage, instead of being taken out, if the damage equals up to the size of the die, it'll like rank the die down to the next smaller one and so on until you finally take them out. And they might have a few special abilities. And combat moves quick. There's no need for a grid. You might need like a bigger overall map. And typically instead of like, okay, it's this big by this big. No, you'd have like, oh, so there's a fight at the museum. So there's the main big room inside the museum, you know, how museums do. There's the street in front of the museum and the roof of the museum. There are police and a bad guy out front in the street and a couple bad guys inside, and you hear something on the roof. Well, I'm going to take my turn to go from inside the museum to the street. Unless you got super speed, then sometimes you could say like, well, I'm super fast. I'm going to go from inside the museum to outside and attack a bad guy. Sure. I'm just kind of describing why I think it's a good system. I like the manufactured tension that builds up. Oh, and if the scene status, it's got 2 things are red there or whatever, if it gets beyond that, the bad thing happens. So if the bad guy's trying to open a portal to hell and you're trying to stop him and you take too long, oh no! Bet I got a cool graphic for that. Those kind of things make it feel more like a comic book superhero story to me. The broader ranks of a superpower and, you know, what that means for them in more fluid terms that you can kind of determine on the spot, that's great. It makes you feel super powerful. It makes leveling it up feel like it has this very notable progression. I love the simplified roles and everything. I don't want to get bogged down in rules and combat taking forever. A turn in this should feel like a couple panels of a comic book. It should feels nice. Feels like a box. Hey, we got cards for challenges and stuff to keep. Oh, these are like laminates. You can marker on them and erase them. Use them over and over. Oh, see, there's lieutenants. Oh, minions. Keep track of a bunch of them all on one little card. See, I love space-saving cool stuff like this. There's the character sheet, but villain name. Oops, there's the old scene tracker. Or if you feel like, you know, you should have maybe more green and only one red or whatever, you make your own. Wow. Just a whole bunch of character sheets. Hey, look, see, there's the abilities. GM screen. Oh, that's useful. See, look at all that info. Wow. There will be a how to play video and we'll go into all of this stuff. I hope I can play this in person with some friends. I'd absolutely use this. So if you get into the game, it's a pretty solid kit. I look forward to doing the how to play. I look forward to releasing some actual play and learn. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you think about this video style. It's kind of YouTube commenter. I'm young and hip. I don't know what I'm doing. A video on another my new favorite VTT coming soon. Doing more streaming. Go watch that. I have a Patreon. Gotta put on the cans. It's my little patron, it's my little patron, it's my little patron song. It's my little patron, it's my little patron, it's my little patron song. Thanks for the money, patrons. I hope you enjoy what you're getting. Ooh. Whatever. There it is. I did it. Goodbye.